The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences only, so don't tell your parents! Listener discretion is advised.
This is Colleen O'Shaughnessy, the voice of Sora, and you're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast for this week. I'm your host, JD, and Kyle had some things to do, so he's not here. But I did recruit one half of our usual anime crew, and Darren, you haven't been on here in a while, but it's good to have you back.
Thank you for having me back. It's good to represent the anime boys on the Ink and Paint Club.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get you on more. So we'll have to do more anime reviews, or whatever. I mean,
yeah.
Don't have to be exclusively anime, but
but anime's so good that we just need to.
Exactly right. So if you've been following our channel, you know one of my favorite things to review for the last 2 years have been the Digimon Tri movies, and here we are, guys. We finally reached the end. We are six
dream.
I know, 6 movies later, like 2.5 years into this, and we finally reached the end. And I have some feelings, good and bad, but we will get into that. But first, Darren, since you haven't been on any of our reviews before, you've been marathoning through most of the series today, and I know you said you hadn't reached all the way to the end, so we might have to do some spoilers for you. But what? So you said you got up to 4, right?
Yes, I'm currently on movie 4 of the 6 right now, and I've gone through them all today, so it's all incredibly fresh in my mind. I have a couple notes with me because I'm a pro at this. I'm a pro anime guy. I know what I need to talk about.
I always feel like our guests are more well prepared than we are. Most of these shows are me talking up my ass.
That's what podcasting is all about.
Exactly. So since you haven't been on any of these, we'll take a little bit of time here at the beginning. What have you thought of the series so far, for like where you are?
Sure. Well, I guess I should start off saying that I grew up a hardcore Digimon fan. Back in elementary school in the 90s when there was the divide of like, hey, Pokemon versus Digimon, I would be there with my my little Digitamer, my little device. I'd have that on me, walk around, get some steps in for my Digimon to eat and level up and all that.
There you go.
So I was one of those kids. I really, really loved the original season. I remember liking season 2 when it came out, but revisiting it years later, I had some issues with it. But, overall, it's a solid continuation. But I was always like a Tamers kid for season 3. That was like the one I really, really fell in love with and really rewatched a lot. I used to have all my old VCR recordings of it. I would have to go to swim practice or something and miss an episode, and just so much nostalgia, especially going into this. I feel like, I'm sure you guys addressed this in your original reviews of it, but these movies pretty much require you to have a pretty good memory of both seasons 1 and 2 of the original series.
Like, I feel sorry for anyone going into this. Like, this is the first experience with Digimon. Like, my wife was watching the first couple, and like there'd be a lot of times where I'd have to stop and explain, like, okay, this is why this is important, like that's a reference back to this old episode, this is this character and this, that, and the other thing.
Like, there's so many things that are name dropped at the very beginning, like when they talk about Gemini, they talk about like the big incident, or like the crests, which are like never really actually defined or mentioned here. And especially I think because it seems the original Digimon, to an extent, I suppose, was also pretty character-driven and really had a lot of character-focused episodes where they would develop. I mean, I remember back in the day, they had the whole Crest Saga, where it was all about them like learning to overcome various hurdles to earn their various crests that represent like different aspects of their personality and all that. And it seems like the character focus and development is like a huge part of these movies, especially in the first 2 parts. And I think I was really happy to see where the characters ended up after everything happened in the original series. Like seeing like Joe, who is always like the cautious one back in the original series. And now you see him, he's trying really hard to prepare for like the rest of his life in university, and he's in a funk because of that. And it's like super relatable. It's super tied to current times and current pressures that people face. And it's really refreshing to see those character dynamics still stick, especially between like Matt, Ty, and Sora and whatnot. And it's been really cool to see how they brought that all back.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been interesting watching these characters who, you know, like you, Darren. I mean, I was hardcore into Digimon as a kid. I mean, I was never like on either side of the war between Pokemon and Digimon. I mean, I played both sides. But I still maintain that like if I had to play a game, I'd rather play Pokemon. If I'd rather watch the anime, I'd rather watch Digimon.
Yeah, I think that is that's like the correct thing to say.
Right. But yeah, just growing up with these characters, and, you know, I mean, they were 10 years old in the show when I was 10 years old watching it, and now they're, you know, growing up and, you know, heading into adult life. And now that I'm an adult, 15, 20 years later, yeah, it's interesting watching how they decided to develop them into, you know, young adults now.
It's been really crazy to see, and I think the one big takeaway for me is just how much I remember liking these characters. Because when I think back to the show, I think a lot about, like, as a kid, I'd you know, you'd stay there for the big fights, like when they fight Devimon or they fight Myotismon and all that. But now that I actually am older and I can reflect back on Digimon, I really take away a lot of the big character moments.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I find and I think if these movies had come out back when I was probably like in my high school years, like closer to the actual big prominence of Digimon, I probably would have walked away from these movies with a different impression and probably not have liked them as much because they're not as action packed as this show was. Oh yeah, like
I mean, there's action for sure, but like the majority of these movies are like dialogue character driven rather than action driven.
So I'm glad I'm watching this as I am now, as a young adult myself, and I feel like I like the pacing of these movies better. Although I believe the original releases were all as movies, and I've been watching them chopped up into like 22, 24-minute episodes on Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
And it is, some of the points where they decide to stop is just really weird.
It is weird. I don't know why. I think just because that's how Crunchyroll's website is already set up, where they're not set up for movies, they're set up for, you know, episodes of TV shows,
like serialized shows and whatnot.
Exactly. So I'm guessing that's why they decided to chop it up into like 22-minute episodes. I will say that I have the Blu-ray for the first 3 movies, and I've sat through the first movie again a couple weeks ago, and yeah, it is a little different just watching it straight through rather than having to like have a fade out and go through the credits of every episode. It's definitely more interest. I mean, you're getting all the same plot and information and stuff. It's not like you're missing anything. It is kind of annoying where the first like 3 or 4 minutes of every episode is just recapping the last 3 or 4 minutes of the last episode you just watched. So that was kind of annoying to get through, but
it's definitely jarring. And it's all, I mean, the one thing I like about having it in this format is I get to see the opening like time and time and time again, which I am absolutely in love with.
Yeah,
like, I'd say overall the music has been incredibly strong, and it's been incredibly nostalgic. Because at one point when I was in high school, I watched the Japanese version of Digimon. So hearing a lot of that music is like, oh man. And then I did get to see, I think the first movie back closer to when it released, I watched that in English.
Did you watch like the Digimon movie, like the English movie that they did where they combined like 3 different movies?
I was there in Canada day 1, and I had to sit through the Angela Anaconda short that was themed around Digimon, which I don't know if most people will appreciate this, because Angela Anaconda was I believe it was a Canadian show, and in Canada it was before every single viewing of the movie. Drove me crazy. But Digimon the movie was awesome, which is also in a way required reading for this show, because Omegamon.
Yeah. Yeah, that Angela Anaconda short is on every version of the Digimon movie, no matter where in the world you watched it.
Good lord, no one was safe.
Oh god, yeah, because I remember that it was like a short on. I don't know if you guys like had Nickelodeon up there, but there was a show called Kablam, where I think Angela Anaconda was on a couple episodes of that, but then it got moved over to Fox Kids. So obviously Fox Kids had Digimon and Angela, so they're like, we're gonna promote Angela by sticking it on the front of the Digimon movie because we need to kill time.
Terrible children's show that no children are watching.
Right, and it's like I honestly feel like it's filler for that movie, is because I mean I don't know, I'm sure most Digimon fans know this already, but the Digimon the movie that we in America got is actually a combination of like 3 movies that have nothing to do with each other that they had to like string together with a through plot. And it's just like,
I remember as a kid being like, why are they showing this?
Yeah.
Oh, cool, we're back to this part. And we also got Smash Mouth in North America. Dude, with the soundtrack, which was crazy.
Dude, the I will say, as hokey as the Digimon movie is, the soundtrack is like kind of amazing. So
it's pretty surreal. Like
it's how 90s
how
as hell.
much licensed music they put in frickin' Digimon.
I just remember I did see it in theaters as a kid, but I remember that we had that in our theaters for like 3 weeks before they dropped it because no one was going to see it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I like Digimon. I like the old stuff, and so far from what I've seen in this, up to where I've seen now, it's been really engaging. But I'd say around like movie 3-4 is where things really start picking up. Whereas I recall some of my friends complain about how movie 1 was kind of a slow burn, and they wanted things to pick up a bit faster.
Yeah, I can see
But I think
that.
so far the payoff's been there.
Right. Cool. So I mean, it sounds like you're having a good time so far.
Yeah, even
obviously
though
you have
the
2 more
last
movies.
movie just had a scene where TK's holding Patamon and crying and promising that he'll kill him if he goes crazy, and that's a little heavy, you know.
Oh, so
I was just at like Fields train station, and now I'm here because one of my biggest things going into movie 4, I guess into movie 3 and 4, was up for the first 2 movies. I kept saying to myself, why aren't they going to the digital world to solve the problem?
right.
This seems like a no-brainer because they have been back and forth before. They know the way, and it just bothered the crap out of me. And then finally, in movie 4, they're like, okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna go to the digital world. I'm just sitting here going like, finally. So I guess this is a question I'll ask you, since you have watched ahead of me and you know of the outcome. Do they ever address, specifically within the core group of the original DigiDestined, do they ever talk and go, hey, whatever happened to the season 2 guys?
Yes, that is addressed. And
because it's been bothering the crap out of me that no one has talked about them at all up till now.
All right, so it is pretty addressed. You never see them. Well, you do, but you don't. But it is the whole deal with the season 2 group is addressed. And you know, Darren, if you're okay with spoilers, then
yeah, go for it.
I can
take it.
All right, so we'll move into the finale movie here. So, yeah, this is the big finale. We've been waiting 6 movies to get to. Just a little backstory for you here, Darren. The big thing to take away from movie 5 is that, one, everyone thinks Tai is dead, because there's this big fight where Gatomon Mega Digivolves into one of her final forms, where she goes into Orphanamon.
Okay.
And Meikumon, who has been like losing her shit lately.
Yeah. So far been one of the main antagonists from movie 3.
So then she and like Orphanamon and Meikumon's like final form, I guess, like fused together into this weird, like, I don't know, it's like Cthulhian horror monster thing. It's horrifying. It's cald Ordainemon, or however you pronounce that, but it is.
So it's channeling a little bit of season 3 then.
A little bit. It's kind of terrifying. It kind of looks like the D Reaper a little bit. One of its forms. It's kind of terrifying. But there's this big fight between it and Omnimon, and Alphamon comes back for a hot sec. And that little red hooded dinosaur evolves to his final, and he's in the fight there too.
Oh, nice. Justimon's there too.
Yeah, he evolves into his final, and he's in the big fight. But there's the big fight. The movie pretty much ends with Ty falling into a ravine, and everyone thinks he's dead.
Nice cliffhanger for 6 months.
Right. Big spoiler here. He's not dead. He does come back.
The main
eventually.
character of the series didn't die. What?
Yeah. So a lot of this movie is, admittedly, a lot of the final movie is them sitting around like, what are we going to do? Ty's our leader. What are we going to do? And so Matt has to become the leader. And it's basically them like seeing the world fall apart, because Ordine is coming into the real world now. And basically the government is like, okay, we rebooted the digital world and that didn't work. So we're going to reboot the real world. Which, honestly, I watched this movie a couple days ago. I'm still not entirely sure what that means. I know it's bad. I don't know what it means, though. I think it means, like, it was going to destroy, like, every electronic device on Earth or something.
The Japanese government is going to do that?
Yeah, they were going to, like, somehow reboot the real world. I don't know how that works exactly, but yeah, Ordine makes its way into the real world, and the kids are trying to find a way to stop it before the reboot goes off. And yeah, there's basically the last 45 minutes of this are a big fight with that. It's kind of cool. You show it on all the posters, but basically Ty comes back. He's like, hey, by the way, I'm not dead, which I'll get into why here in a second. But the big cool part of this was that everyone digivolves into their mega forms to do the big assault at the end, which Gatomon ends up going into her other mega form, the big pink dragon thing.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I had the card of that way back.
Oh yeah. So all of the megas combine into Omnimon and makes like Omnimon Paladin mode or something. I don't know what it's called.
Am I crazy, or is that in the new Digimon game? I think that's like DLC or something.
I have no idea. All I know, it's a big white Omnimon with angel wings, and the Greymon sword turns into a katana.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, it's pretty rad.
I've seen the form. It's pretty cool looking.
He's pretty rad. And so there's that. And then there's a big fight. To answer your question about the season 2 kids, they are addressed. Basically, what happens is Ty falls down a ravine, and he ends up in this lab where the season 2 kids are being held in pods. And then like the teacher guy, I forget his name exactly. The
government agent.
The government agent who was shadowing as their teacher, he's down there too. And basically the antagonist that's been going around disguising himself as Ken or as Jedi is there, and basically says that if they try to remove any of the season 2 kids from their pods that they're being held captive in, the lab will explode and just end up killing everybody. But the teacher guy ends up sacrificing himself so that he can transport Ty and all of the season 2 kids out of the lab before it explodes. So he ends up dying, like straight up,
shit.
Gushing blood. Well, not gushing blood. I mean, there's blood.
Damn, Digimon got real.
Well, I think he like got really hurt falling down the ravine with Ty. So he's like pretty badly hurt, and he ends up staying behind and getting killed off. But yeah, the season 2 kids just get teleported back to the real world, and it's just like in an offhand comment, it says that, oh, these kids were found and were taken to the hospital, and they're gonna be fine. And that's literally all it is.
So I guess this is very centered around season 1. We addressed that season 2 happened, but at the same time, we're only going to talk about the one part people like, which is the Digimon Emperor, who is Ken. And that's why
Pretty
he's
much.
there, and then he's revealed to not be Ken. It's just Ken in disguise.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's disguised as Ken.
Right. Yeah, and it's weird because like in the pod, like when they showed the pods and stuff, they showed, you know, the silhouettes of Davis, Yoli, Cody, Ken's in there. I think actual Jedi is in there because there's a dude that looks like him, his shadow. So I think he's in there too. But yeah, you never see their face. They never talk. You never actually see them face on. But I guess they're fine.
Because it really bothered me throughout this entire thing that no one talked about them. Not that I want them really to go heavy into season 2 stuff. It's just that from what I understand of season 2 is that Davis and Ty were like close friends. He had a thing for his sister, and they had a whole adventure together. And they all team up at the end for the end of season 2. And this takes place after season 2, and it just made me like think like, isn't it weird that their friend, they have not heard from them in forever? Do they not contact each other regularly? When the Digimon stuff happening, they didn't think to go, hey, we should call up Davis and his crew.
Right. And I mean, they kind of, I mean, a little bit, you know, in the beginning of the series, but it's kind of like dropped after a while. And like you said, they went on a big adventure. TK and Kari were part of that team, and they don't seem too concerned about it.
Well, especially when they saw the fake Ken running around, and they got all concerned, and they looked for him in his apartment, he wasn't there.
Right.
And they didn't think, hey, what about his friends? Wouldn't they know what's up with him? And then we don't really get a follow-up on that, which I thought was a weird thing to not address.
I will say, on the whole, I really like this series.
No, I think they're all awesome. It's just the one thing that drove me crazy.
There are a lot of inconsistencies.
Yeah, it's the one thing that I would just love, just a line of dialogue saying, they're not there, what happened to them. That would all I want to know is that they just checked up and tried to follow that lead, and it's done.
Yeah.
I don't need them talking about it for 10 minutes. I just want like one line of dialogue just going, hey, we tried.
Yeah, pretty much all you get is when Ty comes back and is like, hey, I was in this lab, all the other kids were there, they're fine now. That's pretty much all you get.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad that at the very least gets addressed, because in the first movie we see them all get basically wiped out.
Yeah. And yeah, that's never really addressed again. And I feel like that's kind of what's kind of bugging me right now is there's a few plot things that are brought up and never really answered or resolved. I know it's really
brings up quite a few.
Yeah, I mean it's really inconsequential, but Joe's girlfriend is never brought up again after that first time.
Yeah,
you never see her.
Like movie 2, they talk about how he's got a girlfriend. No one believes it.
Yeah, and then it's never brought up again. It's stuff like it's like a lot of little stuff, but yeah, it's but yeah, a lot of this movie is like the kids standing around. It's like, all right, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna stop this giant monster? There's Digimon pouring in from the digital world, attacking the real world. How are we gonna stop this? But you know, there's this giant fight. You know, it's not going well. But then Omnimon shows up and starts wrecking up the place, and but apparently. And I don't know how you're feeling about it, Darren. I don't like May or Meikumon or like anything that has to do with them.
I am not 100% one way or the other with them. I appreciate the idea of there being a character to kind of be there to have things explained to her in place of the audience at times, and being able just to give them a new character. But I don't think she adds a lot so far.
Yeah.
And I wish that contribution was a bit greater, because right now she just kind of seems to be a character that exists to be sad.
Well, that's the thing. May is very much a typical Mary Sue character in the fact that she is introduced to an existing, storyline, an existing group of characters, and all the attention is immediately placed upon her. Like, the ending of this has everything to do with her character and her Digimon, because what it turns out is the reason that her cat is so important and why it was like freaking out and going evil is because it literally has all the memories of the digital world, like pre-reboot, stored inside of it. And like it was just struggling with having that much information in it, and that's why it was going crazy. So they end up, defeating Ordainmon. Gatamon's fine, and all the memories come back to the Digimon. Like you get this little montage, which is kind of sweet, of like all the Digimon being like, "Oh, I remember now," because I don't know, I forget where exactly movie 4 lets off, but the Digimon lost all their memories when the digital world was rebooted, but their relationship with their partners were slowly built back up, but they're basically starting from scratch. But at the end of this movie, everything's set back to normal, where they have all of their previous memories again, so they remember all of the adventures they went on, their bonds and relationship with their partners. So you get that. And Tai and Agamon's one is especially sweet because it's basically like the Digimon standing like in a void, which is supposed to like be the interior of their heads, and it's like flashing silhouettes and pictures from mostly this movie series. But Tai and Agamon's was kind of sweet because there was a few silhouettes during his where if you really paid attention to the first 2 seasons, there were some you could pick out as moments from them.
That's cool.
Which was kind of nice. I like that. But yeah, they saved the digital world. In the real world, they stopped the reboot before it happens again, and everything's just a-okay. Yeah, I mean it's a good movie for the most part, but man, Darren, I don't like the ending of this movie for really petty reasons.
Is it because of the new character?
Kind of. She's part of it.
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay, for anyone who's listened to our Digimon reviews knows exactly what I'm about to say. But Darren, I need to ask you, if you even fall on the side of this argument at all, who do you think Sora belongs with?
Oh no!
I need to know where you fall in this.
Do they definitively end it?
Kind of.
Because back in season 2, it was pointing towards Matt, right?
No, it was like full on, like they did the 25 years later and it said, no, Sora and Matt are married with kids.
Yeah, they did that in season 2. Mm-hmm. So I remember coming to peace with it back then and having conflicted feelings about it.
I've never come to peace with it.
You gotta come to peace with it, JD.
20 years later and I'm still angry about it.
I don't think Tai and Sora work like that. I think it is a different dynamic to the relationship, and I think that I think Tai's personality is just too, like, I think it's like too close to Sora's, and I think that's why her and Matt make sense. And I think one of the few things I think season 2 did well was address this dynamic too. Yeah,
because you had that whole episode during season 2 where Tai was pretty much going to say something, but he backs off after a while because it kind of seems like Sora's not interested in him, which broke my little kid heart, man.
Oh yeah, it broke every little kid's heart.
Those two are like my first and most maintained OTP, for lack of a better word.
It's fair.
Right. But I will say this ending, nothing has changed about the ending of season 2. That is still canon. And it's really funny because they kind of make mention of it, because at the end of this movie, everyone's kind of going about their thing, and Matt, Sora, and TK are walking somewhere, or not, Matt, Sora, and TK are walking somewhere, and they're like, oh, what's Tai been up to? And Sora's like, oh, he's getting ready for prep school. He's actually like thinking about his future. And that's kind of like kind of a reference to how he ends up becoming like a diplomat in the future. And then Matt makes an offhand comment. Is like, oh, well, I guess I'll aim for space, which That's the reference to like how Matt is the first man on Mars.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I have to make peace with it. I thought maybe, because that's the one thing this series really bugged the crap out of me, is they were really playing. It was like, oh, which one's it gonna be?
Are we gonna really get into that drama? That drama's like a big part of.
And
it was a big part of it in season 2 as well, and even back here, because it's still at that height of that drama.
Right, and that drove me crazy.
What about the new OTP, Izzy and Mai?
Mai?
Or sorry, May. Not May. Frick.
Mimi?
Mimi. There's too many M names.
Yeah, I know, right? That's never brought up again. It is okay. So, TK and Kari pretty much have an implied kiss. Because obviously her Digimon like fused with the other cat, and they become this horrible hell beast, and she's kind of broken up about it. But there's this thing where like she's like sitting in bed because she's all depressed and stuff, and TK's there with her. And he's like trying to, get her to snap out of it. And they pan over to Patamon. You can see TK like leaning over the bed on her, and like Patamon starts blushing and covering his eyes, saying he's not looking. And like, oh, so it's pretty much.
Davis is out on that one.
I guess so.
I mean, he was out of the movie, so he's not there.
Exactly. But yeah, Sora and Matt are pretty much implied that that's all still happening. And Izzy and Mimi, that's never brought up again. Joe's girlfriend's never brought up again. But
maybe she didn't exist.
Maybe she wasn't Matt.
Half the group wasn't convinced, so
it's true. But Darren, and oh god, I feel like such a fucking nerd getting upset about this. The salt in my wounds.
Still fresh, it's okay.
The very end of this movie, they're all the whole group, all 8 of them are on a pier, hanging out. I think it's like New Year's or Christmas or something. May has gone away. I think she moved away, just kind of to get away from all this. But they're all standing around, and Ty calls her, and it is like very much implied that he has a thing for her. And I'm like, where the hell did this come from?
Because throughout the first, I want to say 2-3 movies, it seemed like she had a thing for Ty.
Exactly, but like I get that I'm fine with. But like they've only had a few scenes together. There was like one scene where they were staying at the school in like movie 3 or 4 where he goes to talk to her. That's pretty much the most interaction they ever had. But at the end here, it seems like, oh, he has a thing for her now. And I'm like, really? You have to take my favorite character and put her with the Mary Sue character?
The Mary Sue has to get it all.
I guess. Oh,
that's how it is. But maybe Ty just needs someone to fill the void now that Sora and Matt are the new OTP. I
guess, man. I don't know. The whole ending of this movie just bugs me for that reason, and it left a bad taste in my mouth, is what I'm saying.
That's pretty great, though.
But
I mean, it shows you how the movie invests you in that dynamic once again.
Yeah,
and it shows you how the original series did a good job of investing us in it too.
Exactly. Yeah, I think this movie series did a very good job of taking these characters that a lot of us have grown up with, a lot of us that have previous attachment to, and growing them up. I mean, I really enjoyed watching Ty's personality shift, basically, where he spent the first 2 seasons being this like reckless, everything's gonna be all right kind of mentality to seeing the consequences of their actions and being not so sure they're doing the right thing anymore.
I'm actually really glad they addressed that, because back in season 1, it wasn't really too heavily they didn't really get into that too much.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, you're seeing like buildings get completely wrecked. You're seeing parks go down. You're seeing the possibility that people might actually be dying because of these fights.
Right. And it's just kind of weird to see basically Ty and Matt do a flip where Matt is all gung-ho to like, we need to stop all what's going on no matter what. And Ty is like, dude, what we're doing is like putting people in harm's way. And like, we need to think about what we're doing first. So, I mean, it's been really interesting watching him basically mature through these movies. Become a more grown up character as opposed to like the more childlike he started out as.
I really like Joe's arc in particular. So I know a lot of people at the release of movie 1 absolutely hated where he was at. They hated that he was like just ditching the group and just hanging out, trying to study, prepare for his future, trying to ignore everything. But I really liked how they handled his whole arc and eventually coming to grips with his quote-unquote destiny as a Digidestined, and how it's like it's something that he shouldn't feel burdened by, and he should accept as a part of his like adult life, and it's like something that he should move forward with. And I think he had the most earned like mega evolution, and it was really cool to see his Digimon get their mega evolution. Like when Mimi, when she got her mega evolution, I was like, I don't know if she really deserved it throughout this movie, because I don't really know what she did to get to that point. Whereas with Joe, you see it really viscerally, like you see it to the point where his Digimon's like, I gotta go fight without him because he's not here with me, and he comes to terms and goes, I'm an idiot. We got to do this together. We're friends. We're partners.
Right.
And you get to see that cool evolution you never got to see back in the TV series, which I do appreciate about this. Even though those evolutions have existed for years, like through
but now they're like
and
a
other video games. It's cool to see them in the show.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. I like where a lot of these characters ended up. I will say that a lot of the characters got their arcs out of the way pretty fast compared to like how Ty and Matt's arc pretty much ended with this movie. Like Izzy, Mimi, and Joe, and to a lesser extent Sora, really have no arc or growth in this movie. I mean, I don't think Mimi, Izzy, and Joe really have that much bearings on the plot other than Izzy spouting technobabble again. I don't even remember what Mimi and Joe did in this movie besides show up and have their Digimon fight. And like I said, I mean, there's no further development on a possible Izzy and Mimi relationship. So, I mean, you never get that kind of payoff.
Because Izzy's big thing is movie 3. He gets his big character moment there, and Joe and Mimi have some of their stuff in movie 2.
Right.
So I guess it's just a case. I think it's a case of just because the slower development of those movies, they focus on getting those arcs out of the way for the action to come later.
Yeah, most of the characters got like a movie where the focus is on them, whereas like I think movie 4 is like Sora's movie.
Because movie 3 is also a big thing for TK as well.
So everyone gets their moment. But some of them got out of the way sooner than later. But yeah, I mean, these movies are, a great continuation for the most part of the old series. I will say there was a funny bit where you pretty much got an Angemon Devimon rematch in this last movie. Because Ordaimon basically summons a Devimon, and then like Magna Angemon starts fighting him, and it's like, oh, that's kind of a cool nod.
Yeah.
I was half expecting like the Devimon to start evolving into the other villains that they've fought, and then there'd be like this big fight with him and Angemon, but that didn't happen. But I don't know, it was still a cool nod. It's one of those references where if you watch the old show, it's like, oh, that's awesome. But if you're not as familiar, then it's like, yo, that's still pretty cool, though.
I can't feel like people could even get close to enjoying this without knowing the first season.
Oh, yeah.
It seems so ingrained that it's not even funny.
Like, my wife's watched the first couple of them. Like, I think at least probably up to where you are, Darren. And she'd never watched an episode of Digimon in her life, so I mean, but she was still kind of invested in what was going on.
I mean, the movies are good in their own right, but but they definitely don't stop to break it down. Like, I don't even think these movies really address what a Digimon is.
Not really.
So if you don't know going in, you kind of just have to have it explained to you separately.
Yeah, it's just like you should know what you're getting into going in. This is ostensibly a season 3 of a show, so it's
that was done 15 years ago.
Exactly. So yeah, like I said, guys, I've got my issues with this series here and there, especially the ending. But on the whole, I think Digimon Try was worth the effort, worth the wait over all this time, and it was always something I looked forward to coming out every 6 months. So. And I'm not entirely sure, but there was a tweet that went out after this last movie came out, basically implying that there's gonna be more.
I mean, why not?
Because it said something about like the adventure will continue, and adventure was capitalized, so maybe that means we're getting more an anime series based on the old seasons.
You'll get to see Sora and Matt have their first kid.
Yeah,
I love that,
because that's definitely a thing I need to see.
That's the final nail in the coffin.
Oh, good.
They go to time be like, you're the Godfather.
Jeez, they hate me. Why do you do this to me, Japan?
I was going to ask you, what do you think of the animation style? Because it's quite different than the original series. Because it's from what I understand, a different artist, same animation studio, but granted with 15 years of advancement in animation technology.
I will say that the animation hasn't bugged me. I was kind of noticing this the other day because I don't remember what exactly I was looking at, but there's very much a difference between anime that was made in the 90s versus how anime looks now. They very much modernize how this looks. The character designs aren't nearly as kind of like, I guess, cartoonish looking. They're more realistic looking. Expressions aren't as wild and they're not nearly as expressive.
And you also don't have nearly as crazy of outfits.
Exactly, yeah.
You have Izzy in his like giant gloves, or Ty in his weird blue outfit, or Matt in his sleeveless shirt that he just had for whatever reason. It's like a sleeveless turtleneck. Like, how does it even make sense?
Now that I'm thinking about it, pretty much everybody in the first season team had gloves.
Yeah.
I think TK and Joe are the only ones that didn't.
And I think Joe had a sweatband, though, so that kind of counts.
Yeah, he had like a watch or something. But still, like Izzy, Mimi, Sora, Matt, and Ty all had gloves.
Because that's what kids wear.
Because kids wear. I will say I really like the fights in this. I think the fights are really well choreographed.
Yeah, they're really gorgeous.
I was so glad because when they did the first Digivolutions where they went from the rookie to the champion stage, I wasn't really feeling whether like, oh, we're going to make the models CG. But I'm glad for pretty much every other Digivolution they did that they all hand animated it. And
part of me kind of like they did the CG because of the show.
Yeah.
Because the show kind of had, now especially, very dated CG.
It's horribly dated.
But it kind of tugged at the nostalgia strings there, going like, it's CG again because it's Digivolution.
Right.
But yes, it's always a treat to see the hand evolutions.
Yeah, but I think the animation was passable in this. I mean, it was nothing amazing. I mean, the fights were pretty well done, but when there isn't any kind of action going on, I mean, it's a lot of characters just standing around talking, and everyone kind of has like a weird sleepy-eyed look now, because that's just how modern anime looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it looked okay. I mean, I'm not bothered by it. I am kind of bothered by the fact that I think it looks like they de-aged Joe, though. He definitely looked a lot older in season 2.
Joe looked like he was like almost in his 20s.
Right.
He had like the longer hair.
He had long hair.
Yeah, he looked like way... I mean, I'm not against it because I wasn't crazy about that look.
I like season 2 Joe. I thought that's like, yeah, that's what Joe would look like when he's older.
I mean,
That
you're not
seems about
wrong.
right. But yeah, that was the only design that bugged me. Everyone else seemed pretty much on point with what they would look like. I mean, they kept Ty's big hair, so I mean, can't.
And he
complain
gets the
too much.
goggles.
He does get the goggles. That is one thing that is kind of interesting through this last movie is that because Ty is presumed dead, Matt basically takes the mantle of the goggled leader because he basically puts the goggles on after a while. So it's interesting seeing Matt with those on. Mm-hmm. Ty does eventually get them back because he gives them back to him, but just seeing Matt basically Matt transitioning into Ty's role as the big leader was kind of an interesting position to see him in. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if they do decide to do more, would you want them to continue with the original Adventure group, or would you rather see them go back to other groups of Digidestined and like the various other sequels and subseries?
The kid in me wants to say, give me more of those first 2 season groups, because those are the characters I grew up with, those are the characters I like. But the adult in me says that, I wouldn't mind seeing a series based on the teacher and the government woman, their adventures, because it was said that like, hey,
seem pretty morbid.
Yeah, it's like saying they had adventures in the digital world. They went there before the first season crew. And even in the first season, they're just like, you guys aren't the first humans to come here. There's been groups before you. So I would love to see people that came before the season 1 group, what stuff they were dealing with, whether it's the adults from this series or even a different team. I mean, hell, I would love to just see what Ken was doing. Ken and Rio were doing back in the day, because season 2 implied that they were going and doing stuff. I mean, if they want to do a sequel to Tamers, that'd be cool.
If they did a sequel to Tamers, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Other than
Tamers
that,
is like that's my favorite Digimon series.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first 3 seasons are a very solid series. I think for my money and for just because it hit, that's what I mostly remember. I'd probably watch season 2 over any of the seasons, but I definitely like the direction 3 went in, because it was a little more, I'd say mature, I guess.
I don't think anything will ever top the moment Beelzebub used Fist of the Beast King. That's I still have that VCR somewhere of that recording of that episode when I was losing my mind as like a 10-year-old.
I mean, man, I remember coming home after school on, most days, and there'd just be a new episode of Tamers on, and I'm like, all right, what crazy shit's gonna happen this week?
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy shit that happened in that show.
Yeah. So yeah, Darren, is there anything you want to say about Try before we wrap it up here? I know you've still got...
I'll say this about Try, because I know friends of mine who started to watch the first movie, or I think they watched the chopped up version on Crunchyroll, and they kind of stopped after like 2 episodes. I think it is worth going through, but I think it's also worth going in with the mindset that this is not exactly like the old series where there's mini adventures, but there's a big overall adventure where there's going to be constant balance of action and character. This is very much focusing on the characters themselves, because I think Digimon's greatest strength over its contemporaries is the character development, and I think it's always handled that incredibly well, and the character stories are why people still fondly remember Digimon to this day. And so I think if you are approaching it the mindset this is going to be more character focused, and also be mindful of all the references to season 1 and 2, go read the wiki and catch up or something, because if you're not on the dot, you're going to be a little lost. But I think so far it's been a very enjoyable trip, and I'm actually kicking myself for not catching up to these earlier, because I always had the intention to.
Oh, for sure. So you're excited to finish this off with the last 2?
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. Yeah, guys, pretty much what Darren said. I mean, go if if you haven't, after the last 5 reviews we've done of this series, you still haven't watched this, I mean, like you said, it's very much a character-driven show. There's action aplenty, but, you know, the main focus is the characters, and, you know, these characters growing up that we grew up with, seeing them grow up finally. It's been an interesting ride, and it is a little bittersweet that it's over now. This movie series, this show that, you know, I've been invested in for the last 2.5 years, and this show that I've been invested in for nearly 20 years now, which makes me hopeful that maybe there's more coming. I think Try's been doing pretty well. I mean, for the amount of time and money they invested in all these movies, I sure as hell hope so.
Yeah, 6 movies is quite the investment.
Yeah, when they said that, it was like, we're doing six feature-length Digimon movies. Like, all right. That works, I guess. So yeah, it is a little sad now that it's over, and I didn't get the ending I wanted, but, you know, I'll make peace with that one day.
I think part of you knew coming in that it was impossible because of the end of season 2.
Well, see, my whole thing was
It'll reboot it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, at the end of season 2, it was very much implied that, like, after their big fight with Malomyotismon, that was, like, the last big thing that happened. But then this thing happened, so it's like, well, the timeline might be different now. But who knows? Maybe it'll change still. Maybe if they do another series, I'll... You know what? I just need to stop. I just need to stop getting my hopes up. But, no, I like Try. You know, I'm glad that this was a thing, and you know, I'm happy I sat through it. You know, like I was saying, it was something I really looked forward to every time a new movie was coming out. I, you know, was hyped up for the week or two before it would always come out, and get real excited about, like, oh, what's gonna happen now, and what which characters, you know, gonna get the revolution next, and what kind of new developments are gonna be. So, yeah. I mean, I might try to watch this again, you know, maybe once I've given it some time, maybe watch the whole thing all the way through instead of waiting 6 months in between movies and forgetting plot details.
Yeah. Seems very possible.
So we'll see. But overall, I liked it, and I'm glad it was. So yeah, Darren, is there anything else you want to mention before we head off here?
I think it about covers up. All I know is, though, watching this movie series has got me looking at some of the Digimon games that came out over last year. I'm thinking, hey, might need to scratch that itch.
Yeah, I got Cyber Sleuth, and that was pretty fun. I need to go back and finish it.
Because they had the pseudo sequel come out last year.
Yeah, Hacker's Memory came out last year.
Now I'm looking at that. Kind of thinking. Yeah,
it's an interesting premise that they did for those series. So you might like those.
Certainly. I liked Cyber Sleuth. I have played that. It is quite good.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I need to finish Cyber Sleuth. I didn't get too far into it because I keep getting new games.
Just too many.
It's like I was playing Cyber Sleuth, and then my wife got me Overwatch, and I'm like, ah. But now she has Monster Hunter, so I can't ever play the PlayStation.
Yep, that's what happens.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us on this long, epic journey of Digimon movies over the last 2-ish years. I certainly hope you've enjoyed this. And let us know in the comments what you think of, like, how this ended, how this whole series worked as a whole. Because, you know, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And I don't know. I'm sure... Well, we've done all the Digimon movies, and I'm sure I will find a way to shoehorn more Digimon content on this channel.
Go back to Tamers. That's what you do.
God help me.
Go back to Tamers.
God help me. If I have to start doing episode recaps of every series, and we're going to be like, all right, we're starting a new series where I watch 10 episodes at a time and go over the plot and stuff, and we're just going to go through the entire series, all 6 or 7 seasons.
That's free content right there.
Exactly. Who knows? Let us know in the comments what you want me to do.
Maybe one day Leomon will survive a series.
We can only hope.
When's he gonna get his mega evolution?
I thought he did. He turned into
No.
Saber Leomon once.
He has that, but I don't think he's ever turned into that in the show.
Maybe. I don't know. I thought he did once.
In Tamers, he freaking got wiped out.
He sure did. He got his...
He got it
Ass
bad.
Oh, God. Poor Leomon.
That's like the
Never
most
survived
scarring
the show.
episode of the show.
Jerry got PTSD from that shit.
Yeah, as a kid, I was freaking out about that.
Oh, God. So, yeah. R.I.P. Leomon.
But who knows? Maybe Leomon will get his chance in their next adventure, supposedly.
In Digimon Adventure Quad.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same ring to it.
I don't know what the hell they call it. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see in the future. But Darren, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we always enjoy having you on here, and especially saved my ass since we've been having trouble getting people on to record lately. So, yeah, and we'll definitely have to get you on again here soon. I'll send you our schedule so maybe you can figure something out.
Yeah, certainly.
But to all of our listeners, thank you again for watching, listening, and I hope you enjoyed all these Digimon Try reviews, and maybe we'll do some more Digimon stuff in the future. Who knows? But thank you all for listening, and we will catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can catch a new episode every week. Also be sure to follow us on our Facebook and Twitter so you can keep up with the show. Links are in the description. We'll see you next week.